Well, I just want to sort of talk a little bit about this book. Obviously, let's start with the first one. Just run the viewers through, where this starts. It's your life story from birth.
This one is it's from when I was 3, because that's not the first thing I can remember really. And then it just goes through growing up in the 60s and the 70s, and a lot of people can relate to it. No internet or a couple of channels on the telly, that sort of thing. Everyone says, "Oh, it was just like me when I was a kid." Like breaking windows in greenhouses and firing air guns at each other, all that sort of stuff.
Well, very, very relatable. I mean, you both had humble upbringings, sort of.
Yeah, but it was normal. It was not like you didn't think about it, did you? It was just, that's the way it was. You weren't going, "Oh, I want to be posh," or
no, you didn't.
Have real butter.
You had no desire to be.
It was just not long after the war. Yeah.
And this concludes at what age?
What probably year? About 20, something like that, 20, 21 maybe.
And then this is sort of like the real juicy stuff with...
This one is when Pete de Freitas joins the band.
Yes.
Basically we skyrocketed, just completely made the band into what it is. It's like we started out just a 3-piece. There's a picture of us as 3 with a drum machine, and that was kind of like slightly an interesting concept. A guitar band with a drum machine. Like I could only think of, I think Cabaret Voltaire maybe. I don't know whether they came a bit later. Probably not. And there was a German band, a French band called Metal Airbane. They had a drum machine, but they had theirs like about, they were like a punk band.
Yeah.
They had it dead fast. And they were the only 2 bands I really knew that had drum machines. That had guitars. There was other ones, obviously, with electronics and keyboards and stuff, Kraftwerk and Orchestral Maneuvers and loads of Lad Dusseldorf and all these other German bands and everything. So it was a bit of an interesting thing, I thought. It sort of made you stand out a little bit. But then when Pete de Freitas joined, because the drum machine was very limited, it only had two real settings that we used. It was Rock 1 and Rock 2. That was it. And then it was all like Mambo and Bossa Nova. We weren't bothering with that. Slow Waltz was one.
Yeah.
And they were just, they weren't punk rock. But so it was a very early days of like electronic drums, and there was no samplers or anything like that.
Well, it was a very exciting time because, I mean, you're definitely of the pioneers of and setting the standard to which things are measured by these days even.
Yeah, I think it we definitely opened up a few doors for a few people, that sort of thing.
It's interesting, Will, and of course, you and Brian are, both artists in different fields, but one thing I noticed that I can, get from Brian as well is, and a lot of the people who we deem legends now, as yourselves, a lot of you, when you went out to do this, it wasn't out there to necessarily push the frontiers. You were just doing what you did, and it all happened really naturally.
That's exactly what happened. It was never about trying to make money or be famous or all this junk that they do now. It's like, what do you want to be, rich and famous? It's like not what we thought. We just wanted to make something inventive and make a mark in a different way. Not like by finance or fame. It was just exciting to us, to be able to create music that nobody else had created, That was it, really.
Yeah. Well, and as I said...
And it's, sort of still like that now, really. I do like loads of different projects just for the sake of doing them. There's no money in it or, anything like that. Like, the books are doing all right, but, the solo records are going to might sell 1,000 or something,
Well, the records, and I think, I don't want to sidetrack, but I think, you definitely, being from the generation, where records were sold, and you actually sold a lot of records.
Yeah, back then, in the 80s.
What are your feelings on just the industry at the moment and how it's changed? And
that's rubbish, isn't it? Now it's like there's people have got too much.
Yeah,
there's just too much now. It's overkill. You can be whatever you want, but nothing's solid. You want to be a punk, you can go on like punk.com and get all the clothes. When we were starting out, there was no punk shops in Liverpool or whatever. You had to make it yourself. That was part of the whole ethos of it. You know, it was kind of do it yourself kind of thing. Do it yourself magazines, do it yourself clothes, do it yourself records, do it yourself gigs. It was just kind of like the record companies were shitting themselves, really. You know, because all of a sudden the power had swung into the favour of like the bands, and the bands started like indie labels and things like that. So then the big record labels had to pretend to be indie labels, otherwise they would have been sort of seen as unhip. Like Corova, our label, was really Warner Brothers, but they were pretending to be like this hipster, you know, label. But it was still using all their, you know, the mechanics of a big corporation behind it, you know. But it was, you know, so it was kind of, it was definitely a sort of real time of change. And I think one of the big changes was with punk that the record labels used to have a thing where they lend you the money to make the record, right? So, you know, it's your money anyway, sort of thing. So you make the record, but then you've got to pay it back by record sales. Well, in the past, if you didn't pay it back, it was returnable. You had to give them the money back somehow. So, you know, you were screwed.
It's quite gangsterish in a way. Yeah.
So then when punk came along and the tables were kind of turned a bit, they had to put these clauses in: recoupable, non-returnable. So it could only be got back by, you know, sales of records. But you got to remember as well, like that money that was paid back only came off your percentage.
Yeah.
Like say a record sold for 10 quid or whatever, and you were getting like 2 quid of that 10 quid. That 2 quid was paying off your debt, not the 10 quid. They would get the 10 quid anyway. You know, the 8 quid that was left. So it's like, they were on a, you know, it's like the worst mortgage in the world, you know, and we're all like queuing up to sign up to these things. But, you know, that's the way it was then, you know, and it's still like that. Now, in fact, it's worse now because they've stopped making so much money, the record labels. They've got this thing now called a 360-degree deal. Have you heard about this?
That's right, yeah.
Where they take money from your live gigs.
Everything.
And the T-shirts and all that stuff and all your other inventive bits and bobs that you make, they're all signed in. Like, we've got a deal right now. We haven't got a 360 deal. It, you know, it's such a con. You know, it's such a con. You know.
Who are you signed to at the moment?
BMG.
BMG. Okay, that's one of the big players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has changed a lot, and the music itself now actually is not. There's no real value in the music anymore. Of course, there's value, you know, to the fans, but I'm talking. There's no real commercial. You've got no commercial product that you can sell. As you say, you can do books and things like this. Has just changed so much.
Well, we make most of our money from gigs.
From live performances, yes.
That's how we make our money.
Yes.
That's what keeps us going, you know, and we, you know, we do a lot of gigs, and that's how we keep going.